Hey everybody, welcome to Touchdown BC. I'm Ryan Sullivan. It was a busy week in football around the province. UBC was in action with their playoff hopes on the line. Simon Fraser was in tough against Humboldt State. We've got a roadmap of high school scores and standings to pass your way, along with the plays of the month. Junior football had a one-week break as it gears up for the Canadian Bowl final. And last, but definitely not least, we've got some more drills to pass your way. First, though, let's head out to UBC, where the T-Birds needed a win to keep their sights set on the postseason and not next season against the Saskatchewan Huskies.
UBC hosting the Huskies. Two quarterbacks looking absolutely sharp. Two commentators, well, they're looking on. Just kidding. Very svelte gentlemen. Julon Lynch puts the first major on the board after taking this one in from 16 yards out. It's 10-blank. Greg Bokoff then checks into the game for the T-Birds, takes this keeper, ball pops out, it's picked up by Andrew Abbs, and it would lead to this Andre Lalonde toss and catch for an easy major. Then in the dying seconds, Burko connects with Kit Hillis. This would make it 31-0 at the half. UBC loses 38-18. Best news for them, though, is now that their season is over, this red-headed guy probably won't be hanging around their sidelines too often. So the Thunderbirds' 2015 season comes to an end with a record good enough for dead last in the Canada West. They finished the year 21st in the entire 2017 league for both total points for and points per game, while Saskatchewan moves on to the postseason.
All right, UBC with a 38-18 loss to Saskatchewan. The season is over. And, you know, we get to talk about a loss, which we rarely get to do in these little portions that we have. This is our UBC insider, by the way. His name's Andrew Wadden.
And if you couldn't tell, he's being sarcastic because that's all we've really talked about.
Exactly. That's all we get to make chicken salad. So, Andrew, give me the good.
Well, okay, the good is this. The season's over. And I know that, you know, that's being sarcastic in myself, but it's been a real tough season for the UBC Thunderbirds. I mean, we can't really go on about much that was good, but the one person that we've talked about pretty much all season long was Marcus Davis. Marcus was fantastic this season as a freshman, and we knew he was going to be fantastic. Put up big numbers throughout the year, 161.6 all-purpose yards a game. So Marcus is the good in what was a pretty terrible season for the Thunderbirds.
Let's hit the bad.
Well, the bad is this, okay? It's 31-0 at the half. Right? UBC starts to make a little bit of a game of it.
Great halftime show, by the way.
Oh, fantastic halftime show.
Yeah.
If you didn't see this guy, well, then...
We'll run the cover over us talking. Yeah, look how good looking that man is.
Yeah, fantastic.
Andy Neal is his name.
Yeah, great hair. But, but I mean, they get it down to 14, right? And then they get a 25-yard penalty. Alec Pinnell, offensive lineman, stomps on a guy's leg. So then they got a kick from their own 20. Saskatchewan starts at their own 53. They end up going down and scoring. It ends up being 38-18 in the end. So, I mean, just boneheaded plays. You got the game within 2 scores. You're getting a little bit of momentum. And then, boom, everything's out of your sails at that point. So it's kind of in a nutshell how the season actually went for the Thunderbirds, though.
And the ugly.
Well, the ugly is some breaking news that we just found out about 5 minutes before we went to air here. Unfortunately, Sean Olsen has been let go by the Thunderbirds, head coach of the team. And we speculated it on this show. We speculated it on Crown Countdown U, our other show. And you know what? Somebody had to take a fall. And unfortunately, it was Sean. There are some candidates out there that some say could step into Sean's position. But, I mean, like I said, right now, everything's up in the air. And unfortunately for Sean, he's out of work. And I hope good luck to Sean because I think he's a great coach and I think he'll land on his feet somewhere.
Yeah, and a really good guy as well.
Absolutely.
And now let's hit Andrew's weekly pick.
All right, we just got one this week, and it's a guy that I've spoke about before, Rashawn Simonize from the University of Calgary, former Vancouver College student, had over 170 all-purpose yards in Calgary's loss to the Bisons this weekend. That was loss to the Bisons this weekend. Hasn't happened very often for the UC Dinos. But Simonize is going into the playoffs next week. They're going to face Regina, and he's just a big game player. We've known that about him throughout his short career in the CIS, so you got to watch out for Simonize. And he always likes to do big things on the big stage. And hopefully they can get Calgary into another Vanier Cup this year because God knows they want to win one for Blake.
Speaking of the big things that he's done on the big stage, would you be interested in attempting the Simonize dance?
The Elaine from Seinfeld?
I don't know what that was.
I don't know how that works. Yeah, I mean, we'll show the clip though, and then people can see it.
Yeah, it's a lot better than everything we just did. His name's Andrew Wadden.
Kind of.
Not by much though. And he's our UBC insider. This past week, I forwarded a motion to the NCAA asking that the Simon Fraser clan play only schools that specialize in mining and technology. My motion was shot down, and I was politely asked to never call the NCAA hotline again. Simon Fraser had their hands full this past week on home soil with one of the best in the conference, the Humboldt State Lumberjacks.
Humboldt State, Simon Fraser. Things don't start out well for the clan as Ryan Stanford is picked off on the second play of the game, one of 5 turnovers by the clan offense on the afternoon. Then after the defense forces a field goal attempt, the HSU holder can't handle the snap, but he lofts it up to a Lumberjack receiver for a first down, and that leads to this 1-yard Nick Richard-Dooley touchdown to put Humboldt up 6-0 after a missed 2-point convert. Following a 65-yard kick return after the Lumberjack touchdown, Stanford again throws an interception on the second consecutive drive, though the defense would bail the offense out by forcing a punt. Now with Tyler Nickel in at quarterback and facing a 3rd and 1, he would not be able to handle the snap as the Clan offense continued to sputter and had to punt. In the second quarter and leading 9-0, Robert Weber would slip into Ryan Masters and he falls into the end zone to make it a 16-0 scoreboard. The mistakes would continue as even when the offense completes a big play, it turns out negative as Anderson has the ball punched out of his arm and it is recovered by the Jacks. But just as the Clan gave it away, Humboldt gave it right back as Josh Chakai follows the deflection and he returns it 42 yards deep into the Jacks territory. Nicely done. That would set up a 27-yard field goal by Tiernan Doherty to put the Clan on the board, down 16-3 at the half. In the second half, the offense would wake up as Stanford finds Justin Buren to close the gap. That's 19-10. Humboldt State would respond as Richard Dooley scampers 24 yards for his second score to put the Lumberjacks back up by 16. On the following drive, things would get wacky as Stanford was again picked off, but during the big return, Bobby Pospichil would punch the ball loose and it's scooped up by Steven Spagnuolo for the touchback. 80 yards later, and Spagnuolo would pound it in from a yard out to make the score 26-17. However, that's as close as SFU would get as Humboldt tacked on another touchdown, leading them to a 33-17 victory. Not a tremendous day for the SFU offense, but definitely a day to remember for a few guys on defense. Jordan Herdman, of course, being one of them, setting records all over the place. 27 tackles on the day. Are you kidding me? Most guys don't even get that much in practice. Western Oregon hosts Humboldt State next, while SFU hosts Azusa Pacific. Let's take a look now at your GNAC standings. Azusa Pacific in first place, followed by Humboldt State, Central Washington, Western Oregon, Simon Fraser Clan, South Dakota Mines, and at the bottom, Dixie State.
All right, 33-17, the final score out of Swangard. SFU with another loss. We welcome in our SFU insider, as always, Mackenzie Dalgleish. Mac, break this one down for us.
Well, when you turn the ball over 5 times on offense, I don't care how good of a team you are, you're not going to win the game. And second play of the game, Ryan Stanford intercepted. Second play on the second drive, Ryan Stanford intercepted, and it was just a repeat. Again, you're not going to win a game when the highlight of your offense is throwing an interception, chasing it down, and then forcing a fumble at the 1-yard line and recovering in your end zone to get a touchback to get the ball back. They did score a touchdown on the ensuing drive, but still, that was the highlight of the game for the offense. After thinking that we've been talking about them taking a step forward, the offense just took a step back this weekend. And it was unfortunate because the defense came out and shut down Humboldt State. They came in with the second best offense in the conference, and they held them to 100 yards less than their average. They kept the running game in check, didn't give up a lot of big plays, only 3 plays above or over 20 yards. And they kept it in, and surprisingly, it was 19-10 at one time and 26-17 at one time. But when you turn the ball over 5 times, it's not going to work.
Yeah, fair enough. Now, grain of salt time. Let's see if we can find one in the mess. Who stood out and or what stood out for you?
Well, Jordan Herdman, as we mentioned, the defense, middle linebacker, set a record with 27 tackles in the game. That's a GNAC record. Previous record was 25. And he's just been all over the place all season. And as we were talking a little bit earlier today before the show started, if he was on a team that was at least 500, he'd probably be in conversation for GNAC Defensive Player of the Year. But on a team with only 2 wins, that's probably going to go over top of his head. Unfortunate for him because he's been a one-man wrecking crew. 27 tackles, I don't think I've ever seen that before. And overall, though, just the defensive line, they had 10 tackles for a loss, the front 7 getting there. Jamie Puffer again, 2.5 tackles for a loss. They were able to control the line of scrimmage, not allowed the big play. plays, but when you're thrown in your own red zone to start because of a turnover or at midfield and you don't have the time to like settle them down, it's unfortunate, and their effort was kind of wasted.
All right, moving forward, the good news, SFU stays on home soil. The bad news, they welcome in a very strong Azusa Pacific team. What do you think going into this game?
Well, out of the remaining 3 games against probably the 3 best teams in the conference, they played Western Oregon 2 weeks ago. They play Azusa Pacific this week, Central Washington. Next week, Humboldt State they just played. Those kind of the top 4 teams, and this is probably their best matchup, just, you know, toe-to-toe. This is who they best fit with, so you'd like to think that if it's their best matchup, they can win, but still Azusa Pacific is first place for a reason. They're 7-1 overall, and it's going to be very difficult. The offense has to show that they can actually get things done. If they can't do it, you can't expect the defense to hold. Last time they played them, they were down 24-3 in Azusa, California. Came back to lose 32-24, and they had a chance with the onside kick, didn't get it done. Again, it's the effort. Jacques Chapdelaine, head coach, kind of questioned the offense's effort and why did they keep making the mistakes. It's not, I don't think, the coaching's fault. It's the players that got to go out and do it. And again, you got 2 games left in your season. It's kind of make or break to at least move forward. And the locker room apparently was very quiet, and you can't be quiet. And so it's going to be difficult for SFU, and you just hope that they can come out and play.
All right, the worst cliche in broadcasting. Only time will tell. His name's Mackenzie Dalglish. He's our SFU insider. All right, now brace yourself, because absolutely everything BC high school football is going to come at you in the next matter of moments. You got your plays of the month, you got your latest scores, and your latest standings.
Oh, some fantastic plays of the month. Let's take a look now at your AAA scoreboards. And here is a look at some AA action. And now let's take a look at your AAA standings, starting with the East. And now here are your Western Conference AAA standings. Now let's take a look at your AA standings throughout the province.
All right, we welcome in our BC High School football insider, as always, Dino Jeremiah. A number of good games this past weekend around BC High School football, one of which stands out that you attended, Vancouver College Notre Dame.
Yeah, the annual Archbishop's Trophy, Notre Dame, unfortunately, again, a soft spot, but they just didn't have enough to take on the Irish. And Vancouver College looked strong. They did a great job. Both offensively and defensively, were better across the line of scrimmage than I thought they were going to be. And great game by their quarterback, Jordy Belfiore, who's just an outstanding young quarterback, grade 11, and he's got a real bright future. So.
Well, you know, on that note, why don't we go along with some more standout players? We're getting on the home stretch of the season now. Who's standing out in your mind so far?
A couple of guys just really to watch. St. Thomas More, Terrell Jana is playing quarterback, great athlete. Again, in the game again this weekend against Tweedsmuir, was a huge standout, over 150 yards offense. So he's a guy that watch, especially as they get into the playoffs. Shea Fairnew with Mount Doug, again, helped Mount Doug continue their winning ways. And another outstanding game for him, back-to-back. And he is playing well, not only on offense, which everybody obviously notes the yards that he makes and catches, etc., but on defense is where he's really impressive. And when I've watched film on him and had the pleasure of working with him with Team BC, he is a factor on defense as well. So he's another bright star out there. A couple other guys. Mike West is an outstanding athlete with Terry Fox, plays defensive line, running back, tight end. You could pretty much line him up anywhere, and he's just one of those outstanding athletes. So those three. And then on the line of scrimmage, Harper Sherman out of New West. If New West is going to do anything, you know, and start playing with the big boys as we head into the playoffs, they have got to dominate the line of scrimmage, and Harper will be a big part of that. So.
Nice. Okay. And as we always do, let's find out what the latest is at Football BC.
Well, we're excited. We're our U18 team and grade 8 teams are going to be playing in the Tanoa Bowl down south of the border against a Hawaiian team and Washington team coached by Marcus Trufant. So it's an outstanding tournament and bowl for our players to really expose themselves to a lot of the NCAA schools in the Northwest. So we're excited about it at Auburn Memorial Stadium in late December. So looking forward to bringing that team together and doing some damage south of the border.
So you got Marcus Trufant coming out. Will Michael Boulware make an appearance?
You never know who's going to show up. So they're all invited.
Yeah, the red carpet is out. We'll see who shows. Exactly. His name's Dino Jeremiah. He's our BC High School football insider. It was an epic Cullen Cup final, one for the ages, one might say, that saw the Langley Rams defeat the hometown Okanagan Sun in the dying moments to send them to the Canadian Bowl final. In a 2012 finals rematch, the Rams will face the Saskatoon Hilltops, and as Alex Kerrigan reports, while the same teams are headed back to the final, they couldn't be more different than their predecessors 2 years ago.
This year's CJFL Championship will be played between the Prairie Football Conference and the BC Football Conference. The Saskatoon Hilltops punched themselves a ticket to the Canadian Bowl by beating the Calgary Colts 27-7. The Prairie Boys come into Langley after the Rams won the hosting duties over the Okanagan Sun, score of 23-19. This game's a rematch of the 2012 Canadian Bowl, which was one of the most exciting championships in recent memory. The Hilltops scored 17 unanswered in the second half to win the game 23-21. The teams that play on November 8th are very similar. They're even similar in their differences. Both teams are quite different from the squads that played in the 2012 game. The teams in that game were led by run-heavy offenses. Both teams still have great run attacks, but the matchup of quarterbacks Jared Andrewchuk versus Jordan McCarty is intriguing. Both are mobile quarterbacks with strong arms, and both have viable receiving threats. Quickly though, the run attacks. Langley's led by Nathan Lund, who had a stellar Cullen Cup. Saskatoon's flexing their depth at running back as the PCFC's Offensive Player of the Year, Wendell Lewis, is out with an injury. Backup Logan Fisher had 185 yards in the win over Calgary. Each team has receivers that can break the game open. For the Hilltops, Evan Kopczynski has great concentration and ball skills and can make plays after the catch. Also able to rack up yak, the Rams' Malcolm Williams is a veteran in the receiving corps, scoring a major in the 2012 Canadian Bowl. Defensively, both teams love cover 3. The Hilltops are less prone to give up the big play and always have a safety or corner playing over top. The Rams take more risks on defense, blitzing heavy and often. Both teams have good defensive lines, with the Rams having a slight edge. Both defenses also rely on their linebackers for the majority of tackles. Justin Filtio and Ethan Schulz are the leading tacklers for Saskatoon and Langley, respectively. They will have targets on them all game. In the 2012 game, turnovers and penalties helped Saskatoon in the second half and kept Langley out of field goal range in the last 2 minutes. With the number of similarities between these two teams, the difference could be discipline.
All right, coming off that huge Cullen Cup win over the Okanagan Sun, we got the Langley Rams, the Saskatoon Hilltops. We got Alex Kerrigan, he's our BCFC insider. Set it up for us.
Well, defense wins championships. You know, offense wins games, but D gets rings. That's the real matchup that I'm going to be looking at for this game. Statistically, in the playoffs, the Hilltops have allowed 50 less points. The Langley Rams have allowed 70 points. The Hilltops only 20 points. That's the big matchup I'm looking at. How well is Jordan McCarthy going to be able to read that Saskatoon defense? Jared Andrewchuk actually was the quarterback for the 2012 team. He's played there. He's got experience. He's going to be okay. So the real matchup that I'm going to be looking at is Jordan McCarthy versus the Saskatoon Hilltops defense. Also, this isn't quite a specific matchup, but I have a feeling this is going to be a really close game. Whoever wins the fourth quarter is going to come out on top. Last year, of course, Saskatoon, they scored 10. They held Langley to 0 points. Langley was in good position with the last 2 minutes, but they just couldn't do it. So again, to reiterate, whoever wins the fourth quarter, I have a feeling is going to have a really good chance at winning this game.
All right, now we've touched on a few matchups. Let's touch on special teams.
Well, special teams is going to be big for both teams. I think this is the first time that Langley is going to be playing against another kicker who is as dominant or even more dominant than their own kicker, Steve Thomas. Steve is a really good kicker, though. He's operating about 80% for his regular season numbers. I mean, that's really good.
That's not bad.
The other kicker for the Hilltops, Brett Thorarison is his name. He's only operating about 75, which is pretty modest, but it's the playoff numbers that count. Steve Thomas in the playoffs is 2 for 4. That's 50%. Brett Thorarison is 4 for 4. For the statistically challenged, he hasn't missed yet. Playoffs is where it counts, and being that these teams are so similar, that could be an X factor in this game. Hopefully, it doesn't come down to those two, but I wouldn't be surprised if it ends up on the boot of one of those kickers.
Yeah, fair enough. All right, here we go. Let's get the big prediction. What are you thinking?
Well, I'm not betting against the Langley Rams again. I bet against them last week, and I got burned for it. I think that Langley wins their first Canadian Bowl since they moved to Langley. It's going to be a tight game, but the Langley Rams have not lost at home all year. I think that's going to be the difference. Final score, 27-25. Like I said, I think this is going to be a really close game. It's going to be November the 8th at 1 o'clock. We'll be broadcasting it on CJFL.com. More news about that coming up. But yeah, last game of the BCFC schedule, guys. Get excited.
It's going to be a good one. His name is Alex Kerrigan, and as always, he's our BCFC insider. We here at Touchdown BC like to educate as much as possible. We keep you up to date on UBC, SFU, high school football, junior football, etc., etc. Now it's the portion of the show where we like to elevate your game. It's time to check in with Handsworth Royals head coach Jay Prepchuk for a few more drills.
In this segment, we're going to work on our follow-through, making sure that the quarterbacks get a real good zip on the ball. So with Mihai, Lucas, Theo, and Liam Howie from University of Saskatchewan, what we're going to do right now is just focus on one thing during this drill, and that's going to be our follow-through. We want to make sure that as we do a nice high release, we still want that ball up above. So guys, just get the ball up in a position to throw. Good. Now as you throw the football here with this nice high release, what you want to do is as you deliver the football, again, going back to our old drill, we want to come back, ball above, snap it down and through, making sure our elbow is up, making sure we come over this way. We do not want to throw the ball sidearm this way. Okay, we want to have the ball, we want up and over, and as you come down and through and you're snapping through, you're going to finish with that hand right onto the left thigh right here, okay? So some quarterbacks are comfortable with this area, even somewhat across here. What we want to not do is come across our body and go this way. We want to come over the top. See that elbow is still high release, slightly bent, okay? Snapping that wrist down and through and finishing right over there like that. And we imagine that we have an eye at the very back of our shoulder blade right here, and that ensures that we're going to help get our core through the throw so that we can use our core for a powerful movement and get more zip on the ball and finish this way.
Thanks for joining us for our first November edition of Touchdown BC. And just a friendly reminder, if you're between the ages of 12 and 19, or in my case, 28, please don't try and keep your mustache after this month ends. Trust me, it looks awful. I'm Ryan Sullivan, and I'll see you next week.